Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's Mari and welcome back to Spooktober. So for today we have five animated scary stories. I used to watch this before reacting to it, and I kind of want to shed some light on these I guess these channels or these stories and stuff like that, you know, get their name out there. I'm sure it's really popular, obviously, but a lot of people don't know about them. And I usually like to watch some of these stuff. Just, you know, I think some creepy stuff and stuff like these are entertaining to see people's experiences with certain things that might have happened. And you know, I think it's just interesting to see these stories. But you know, I just wanted to kind of share, right? I wanted to kind of share some of the things that I enjoy watching. But yeah, today is 5 true terrifying horror stories, but they're animated, so they kind of like walk you through the whole story rigmarole thing. So this one's by MJV Animations. He's like one of the big ones. There's other ones such as Creepy Animation. There's a lot of them, but there's a lot of really cool stories. You know, like you have a story, give a submission, and then they'll create the animation of it. It's really sick, actually. So if you guys will please, if you guys do enjoy, first like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. That helps the algorithm, helps my name get out there, you know, show to more people that enjoy content like this. But second, please make sure to show MJV Animation some love. Check him out, subscribe to him if you do enjoy his stuff, and go and like this video as well. I'll have the link to maybe both down below. I'll for sure have his channel down there. I might link the video as well. But again, guys, I'll see you in the video.
This happened to me and my wife a few months after we moved into a new place. This took place back in November of 2018, and actually wasn't even fully resolved until just recently. So back at this point in time, me and my wife were going through some hard times. I was making money through some slightly illegal means and had actually gone to jail for 9 months.
Bro, that started off great. Making some money through illegal means, and then went to jail for 9 months. Insane. Bro, about to come home and his wife's pregnant. I'm kidding. That's insane. That's crazy work. I'm so sorry.
Got out in September of 2018, and I had a job in the city waiting for me when I got home. Now, when I got out of jail,
Granny,
my wife was living with her mom about an hour away from the city. But she knew we had to find somewhere to live close to both of our jobs that were downtown in the city that we were moving to. Since we were starting all over after the legal fees, lawyers, fines, and other assorted debts, we knew we could only afford something super cheap that would let us pay week to week instead of having to pay security deposits and monthly rent up front.
That's kind of cool, actually.
We found a boarding house in our city and checked it out. There were 4 rooms in the house with a shared kitchen and bathroom for everyone.
Trump intends to enact a national sales tax that would raise prices.
We moved into one of the rooms. Our neighbors on the first floor were a 30-year-old lady and her mom. And then upstairs, there was a young guy who moved in the same week as us. And lastly, a young couple that lived in the room next to the other young guy. In the 3 months that we lived there, the only people we talked to was the young couple upstairs.
That's cool, though.
They seemed similar to us in age and interests, and we just usually talked to them in passing, or maybe on the front porch when we were all out there having a cigarette. They were nice enough, and they also smoked weed.
He said they also smoke weed. Bro, I was about to say, I was like, dude, that looks more than just a cigarette. You know, a cigarette got that little, like, white thing, and, like, the orange little, you know, bit on it. Unless he's, like, smoking, like, a Black and Mild or something, but I was like, bro, that ain't no cigarette, dude.
Which me and my wife did as well.
Bro got a
and
blunt.
We smoked on the porch together a couple of times. Things were just a-okay until the month of November came and shit just started to hit the fan, left and right, with this couple who we'll name Jim and Sierra. It started off small. Things like hearing them get into short shouting matches, or one or both of them asking me and my wife to borrow money, or constantly trying to bum cigarettes. One day I came home and Sierra was walking into the house, the same time as me, with 3 guys that I've never seen before, and a case of beer.
Bro, Bro, that's not a good sign, bro. You see the way his nose is? You see that nose? Anybody with a nose like that it ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Both of them. First one, look at his nose. Anybody with noses like that, you can't trust them. Trust me. Been there, done that. Have my fair share of noses that I've encountered. Can't trust them.
They party all night and keep me and my wife up, but we end up going to bed around 5 a.m. A few days later, we are woken up on a Sunday.
It's so late.
Me and my wife's only day off to Jim screaming at Sierra, throwing all of her stuff into the front yard.
Bro, she's tweaking. Anybody that's squinting as such in one eye, if one eye is wide open.
One eye open when I'm sleeping. One eye.
And the other one is like squint. Dude, the veins and the teeth that look like more than 32. How many teeth we got? 26? No, that's the alphabet. Dude, he's not okay. Bro is tweaking. Bro is tweaking.
Hard. He was calling her everything in the book you can imagine and told her to get out of his life, yada yada yada. They argued for like 3 hours and eventually someone picked Sierra up.
Okay.
We had a week of peace and quiet, but by the next week she was moved back in.
What the?
And the fights and screaming were constant.
Bro,
until one night.
Back in.
It was a Tuesday night, the day before my birthday.
That crap happened.
Me and my wife worked that day and just kind of lounged around after work. My wife and I ended up smoking some weed around 1 a.m. and we put in a movie to giggle at all night. The whole time we were watching this movie, we could hear Jim and Sierra screaming at each other.
Long finger.
We could hear them stomping around as they moved around upstairs in the room right above our ceiling. It went on the whole movie, it seemed like. After actually making it through the movie without falling asleep from smoking too much, we both noticed that Jim and Sierra had finally stopped fighting. We both wanted to take advantage of the quiet, and we laid down and cuddled up to sleep until we had to go to work in the morning. I was woken up in the middle of the night by my wife, who was shaking me and looking off toward my side of the bed. I was so tired and out of it that I thought maybe she saw a big bug and wanted me to kill it. I turn over to get up, and when I do, there is a man standing next to my bed, hunched over my nightstand going through my drawer, and the man has an empty milk gallon in his hand.
No way, bruh.
After rolling over and us locking eyes, he stood up from his hunched position and was just staring at me. I kicked my feet out onto the floor and I sat up on the bed as he started backing up slowly, one step at a time. At this point, I finally realized that it's Jim in our room going through my stuff, holding an empty milk gallon. Now, like I said, I was still pretty out of it and just calmly said to him, "What's up, Jim? Why the hell are you in our room, bud?" After a few seconds, Jim asks, "Can I borrow your guys' car, man? Or can one of you take me down to the gas station and back real quick?" Thank goodness for my wife, who was finally fully awake, unlike me, who said, "What? You broke in our room to borrow our car. No, you cannot borrow our car after you broke into our room at 4 a.m. Now get the hell out of here, you freaking weirdo." Surprisingly, Jim leaves, but he doesn't just leave. He sprints out the front door and starts running down the street, towards the gas station that he asked us to take him to. I looked at my wife, and before we can even say anything to each other, our other neighbor from upstairs comes down and says that Jim and Sierra were fighting worse than he had ever heard, or saw, that he hadn't heard any noise coming from the room for about an hour. My wife, who was feeling protective of a fellow female who had to endure similar abuse in the past, told me and our neighbor to go upstairs and check on her. So we go upstairs, and the door to Jim and Sierra's room is shut, but not locked. I knocked and shouted for someone, and there was no answer. Standing side by side, me and my neighbor turned the doorknob and pushed the door open.
She dead?
On the back wall of the room, Sierra was laying on the couch, face up, and we also noticed that the floor and ceiling had been hacked up, almost like someone was trying to get inside of the floor and ceiling for some reason.
What the heck?
Me and my neighbor walked over to the couch, thinking that Jim had knocked her unconscious, but when we made it to her, we realized there was blood on the couch and thin blood streaks on the wall, and blood all over her. I can't speak for my neighbor, but as soon as I looked at her, I thought, she doesn't have a face.
What?
The neighbor called the cops immediately, and I was just standing there dumbfounded. I heard him tell the police that Jim had smashed his girlfriend's face in with a sledgehammer, and the weapon was still there, but Jim had run off. The police told us to leave the room and wait outside if we felt safe doing so. The cops came and they put an APB out on Jim, and they found him about an hour later running down the street. After talking to the cops, they said it looked like Jim was trying to find the gas line in the house, and he probably wanted me to take him to the gas station to get fuel to help him burn down the house with Sierra inside. After all the cops left and everything calmed down, me and my wife looked at each other like, what the hell? We had to call into work the next day because there were 2 news vans out front all morning, and every time we stepped out for a smoke or anything, they were badgering us for an interview. It ended up being a small blip in the news with a short paragraph in the newspaper and a 1-minute segment on the local news channel. But yeah, that's how I was face to face with a murderer right after he killed his girlfriend in the same house I was in.
Whoa, dude. That's not, I mean, for some reason, like when he was tweaking or whatever, I thought they maybe owed money to somebody and he was like desperately trying to get money so that maybe they don't kill him and his girlfriend or whatever. But no, dude. No. Bro, that was crazy.
So this part of the story starts in 2009, and I was a junior in high school. I lived in a small town in Ohio. In the fall, I started to date my first real boyfriend, John.
Insane.
He was a senior, and many of his friends were dating my friends, and he was well-liked and funny at school. I'm thrilled about the relationship, especially because my strict parents even seemed to like him as well. He was pretty quiet around them, but always polite and appreciative in their presence. Since it's a small town, John lived literally down the street, and we hung out all the time. My parents were actually getting divorced at the time, so I liked spending time at his place more than mine. John lived with Chris, a man who wasn't his biological dad, but somehow he had lived with since around the age of 13, and often called him dad. Chris was an adolescence counselor who knew John because he had been in the foster care system, and he had taken John in.
That's cool.
Chris was an amazing human who was fun to be around, and it was just the two of them and their pug Murphy at the house. I don't know much about John's childhood at first, other than it had clearly been rough enough for him to be involved with children's services. Anyways, we spent a lot of time together, and always had a good time with Chris as well.
She's stepping hard.
Eventually, John confided in me that he often had really bad depression and would get really bad thoughts. I was shook by this, and I even told Chris about it as well.
Bro, I'm
Regardless, we continued to
nervous.
date, and I did my best to support him. So the next year I'm a senior and John has graduated, but he's not really doing anything. He didn't go to college, and his plans to join the military weren't working out, so he's just living with Chris and working a part-time job that my dad had gotten for him. I've always been into school and extracurriculars, and I felt like John was holding me back.
Oh.
Our relationship was going downhill in many ways, but I was scared if I broke it off that he might really do something drastic.
Where are you?
He had threatened to do so when I tried.
Jeez, dude.
In May 2011, I graduated high school and decided I had to leave the relationship behind. I was having my own depression issues, and John was having a detrimental effect on my mental health. I finally told him that we had to break up and he needed to stop contacting me with these threats. I mostly cut off all contact, and a couple of months later, I got an apartment with a friend, about 30 minutes away from home, beside the college I was attending.
Okay, period.
One Friday night in April 2012, I'm in my hometown to see a friend, and I pass John's house where I see police cars everywhere. I'm shocked and I didn't know what to think, so I immediately call our mutual friend Kyle. Kyle said he has no clue what was going on with John, and he says that John had hung out at his house a few days before. Kyle said John seemed like he was in a good mood, especially because he was driving Chris's Beamer at the time, which he loved to do. Anyways, Kyle was actually hanging out at my apartment with my roommate. This was normal as he had a crush on her, so I just keep driving that way. When I get to my place, Kyle hasn't heard anything, but my mom calls me with the scoop. She's friends with cop wives and stuff, small town stuff. It turns out that John murdered Chris, and he was on the run somewhere. Someone had called for a wellness check after not hearing from Chris for a while. The cops found his body at home. I was shocked and a little bit scared, as were Kyle and my roomie. So we all decided to stay at my roommate's parents' house for the night. By morning, the cops had luckily found and arrested John. He had taken the Beamer, so it was easily spotted at a rundown motel about 15 miles from his home and about 12 miles from our apartment. When the details came out, the whole thing was even more terrifying.
Dude.
It was a brutal homicide, and it occurred days before the body was found.
No way.
Which means that John was just hanging out at Kyle's house between committing this act and getting arrested. Just nonchalantly playing video games and telling jokes to Kyle's little sister, acting like everything was just fine. Meanwhile, he had stuffed Chris's body in their freezer at home.
Oh!
It's insane to think about how someone could be such a psychopath. There was really no explanation given. John initially tried to plead insanity, but he was eventually deemed competent and then pleaded guilty. He got 30 to life in prison. I've obviously told this story from my perspective, but the person who really matters the most in this is of course the victim. Chris was truly a saint of a human being. He had been my role model for so many years. You just wonder, how could something so horrific happen to someone so good? And at the hands of someone who they had given everything to. Someone they had loved, trusted, and seen as a son. It's horrifying. Chris spent his life advocating for kids like John, and the local center he worked at is actually named after him now, as is the street that it is on. I often wonder about the why of it all. Chris and John got along almost all the time, and though John clearly had mental health issues, no one thought he would really hurt anyone. But clearly, something was very wrong with John that we missed. They say hindsight is 20/20, and I can definitely look back and think of a few strange instances with him. Sneaky, manipulative, and angry. He eventually showed all of those traits, but I was lucky enough to not experience any violence at his hands.
Yeah, she was lucky enough not to
I wish I could say the same for Chris. I'm thankful for the time that I did get to spend with him, though, and the positive impact he had on my life during that time. I know he had a positive effect on so many other lives as well. May he rest in peace.
Bro, I was not expecting that either. That took a crazy turn. I was expecting him to like commit.
Why are we called
I hit my funny bone. Bro, I was expecting him to commit seppuku side. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Y'all feel me? But yeah, I did not expect him to freaking just like, I don't know, not Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees him. Man, stab the man up, bruh. He just pulled a freaking Halloween. That's insane. He just pulled a freaking Michael Myers on him. Golly, dude, that was crazy. Oh yeah, I was not expecting that. Dude, acting like he's a freaking British thug out there stabbing.
It was summer of 2004. My family was supposed to vacation to Kennebunkport, Maine. My father was stuck in meetings, so he was going to come up from Manhattan a few days after us. My mom wanted to drive up there to Maine before my
Yo, she riding that big body. She got the freaking 5% tint on there. Yeah, the big body Escalade. Everybody know about that one. You got that freaking 7-liter, whatever it is. You got that 3 miles per gallon. Big body Benz for real, bro. Golly. I'm probably gonna break down in about approximately 152 miles. I'm gonna pull off the lot 32 and a half miles later.
Dad got there, which was super annoying to me at the time, but we didn't have a choice. And my brother, sister, and I loaded into the car and started to drive. I was about 14 at the time.
Oh yeah, like I was gonna say though, this picture of John, where is it at? Yeah, anyone with a foul, thick neck like that, psychopath. 100%. I can guarantee it. First episode, people with them noses, can't trust them. Second animated episode, anybody with a thick neck. Look at that junk low-key bulging out. Strong neck. Neck can bench 350.
Drive. I was about 14 at the time. The drive was uneventful, but there were various delays, and we ended up getting there a lot later than originally planned. Because of this, the owners of the house we were renting had turned in for the night, and we weren't able to get a hold of them to get the keys. Sounds like horrible planning, but apparently they were pretty strict about the time frame to pick up the keys. My mom, unfazed, decided she wanted lobster, so we went to one of our favorite spots. She called my dad to see if he could make us reservations at a hotel in Kennebunkport from New York City while we ate.
Are you KFC?
We were enjoying the lobster while a guy came up and started chatting with my mom.
Gandhi? Who are you?
I figured it was just a friendly local making conversation. During this, my dad calls my mom, and my mom excuses herself to speak to him. Apparently, all hotels were booked for the night, go figure. Height of vacation season in Kennebunkport. The plan was for us to drive to the nearest town and just find somewhere to stay until we could pick up the keys for our vacation home. Apparently, the local had been listening into my mom's conversation and came back over when she got off the phone. I want to say there was nothing outwardly off about him. He was preppy looking, clean cut, unassuming, and he fit in with the clientele. He told my mom that he had a big home with a big guest house that we were more than welcome to stay at,
and that
his wife wouldn't mind.
Come on, bruh. I don't care who you are, dude. Nobody with bags like that is gonna tell me to come stay at his house. You with bags as such, staring down at him. Look at the eye. Dude, he's staring. Look at the eyes. Like, she knows he's not even. It's like a three-way relationship. Boom. She's looking at his eyes. His eyes looking at the titties just there. Dude, don't listen to him, bro. Nobody like that is gonna tell me, hey, you could come stay at my house, because I'm gonna tell you, hey, you got a 5-day resort in Sleep City, because like I'm knocking your screws loose, bruh. It's you mean. Tight old belt, bruh. You got a handkerchief at a restaurant. You got a handkerchief at KFC. Screw you.
Immediately, my reaction was screw that.
Yeah,
no way in the world I was staying in a random dude's house in creepy Maine in the dark.
He right.
No offense to anyone
Maine.
from Maine, but the streets get creepy.
Yeah, Maine got meth heads. You think I'm joking, bro? Maine got meth heads, right? How about this? Somebody, these Maine gangsters finna press me now. That's it. So it's raps, guys. My ops from Maine are finna come and kill me. I guess that's it. They're gonna come throw lobsters and crabs at me until I die.
My mom, doing her due diligence, determined this guy was legit. Said he was in finance. My mom was an investment banker, and they chatted enough for my mom to determine that he wasn't totally full of it. I called my dad pretty hysterical, but he said I was overreacting and that I needed to get out of the city more and accept that sometimes people are just nice. So my brother, sister, and I got into our car and followed him back to his house. The guest house was actually really nice, fully furnished,
too trusting.
but the beds were oddly placed.
Y'all are too trusting. Bro, y'all are too trusting, dude. I don't even trust my own family. Like, sometimes. If I'm gonna be real with you, y'all trusting random big bagged, under the eye looking people at KFC restaurants dressed up to the T. I'm not trusting you, dude. Trying to sell me. Trying to sell my butthole to people that I don't even know.
Had 2 bedrooms, and instead of the beds being located in the middle or centered, imagine a symmetrical room layout. They were right under the window in each room. It just seemed out of place to me. Anyway, fast forward, we are all getting ready to go to bed. My mom hears a knock on the door, and it's the guy. He said he just wanted to check to make sure we got settled.
There he is. Suit
cool.
and tie again.
Nice thing to do.
8 p.m.
About 30 minutes later, he comes back to check in again.
Oh my lord.
At this point, my mom was like, thanks, we're good. We'll stop by the house in the morning to say thank you, etc. Okay, so fast forward another 30 or 45 minutes. I can't sleep. I'm feeling terrified. We hear this rustling, which is odd, because the guest house was nowhere around trees, or even close proximity to bushes that might cause such a noise.
Really?
At this point, I see my mom wide awake and look up at the window, like motioning towards the window with her eyes. Let me add real quick. None of the windows had curtains. The guy said it was because his wife was in the process of redecorating. When I looked up, there was a male figure just standing.
Come on, dude.
I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I don't know how long he was there for. When he walked away, my mom waited a bit and then told us to get our stuff together. She wasn't messing around. We had my dad on the phone at this point, and he was pretty much flipping out at my mom about something, but I didn't hear what.
About what, dude? You the one that said, "Hey, bro, why are you not trusting him? Why are you not trusting the guy in a full suit at KFC? Like, come on, bro."
My mom said she was going to put stuff in the car and to follow her out.
What a goofball.
This was around 2 a.m. When we got into the car, we pulled around to the front of the main house so we could get the hell out of there.
Facts.
However, when we got to the front, all the lights were off. Not just all the lights, but it looked like no one had been home. Porch light, table lamp, and front windows, like everything black. Also, the 2 cars were gone. The local's car and what we presumed to be his wife's car. After seeing this, my mom at this point, pretty unsettled, said we were leaving and we proceeded to drive to the gate. The gate at the end of the driveway had been deadbolted and padlocked shut from the inside. It wasn't a super strong gate, so my dad said rev it, and we were in a big SUV. We just smashed right through it.
Good stuff, dude.
We drove back straight to New York City, not speaking the entire time. We have never returned back to Maine, and my parents refused to speak about it. I asked a family member one night about it when he was drunk, and all he said was, "They didn't tell you?" The actual owners of that house were on vacation. I'm assuming my mom or dad followed up with local authorities and figured that out, but never told us.
That's
I don't know who
crazy.
that man was or what was planned that evening.
Freak, dude.
I was curious as to whether there were any known serial killers or murderers who were in that area at that time.
Insane. That is insane work, bro. That is crazy work. Dude, that's crazy work. Never catch
This
me.
encounter happened in the summer of
Too smart for
2006 when I was 20 years old.
I'm too
I
paranoid.
didn't get my driver's
actually.
license until
That's-
January of that year.
I'm too paranoid.
And driving opened up so many doors for me that I took
You driving mad aggressive. Look at you. Like, you look so mad. Why are you driving so angrily? The nose, dude. You can't trust people with that nose.
took a lot of solo road trips to my friends' houses. I also look pretty young for my age, and I was often mistaken for a high school student in my early 20s.
Are you sure?
I was driving alone on I-78 on a random July day, on my way to visit my friend in southern Pennsylvania for a long weekend. Her parents were away, and we had the house to ourselves.
Zoom in!
And we were planning on drinking and hot tubbing
Yeah!
and watching Planet Earth drunk. It had just came out. Maybe run around some
Are
cornfields
you
at
drunk
night.
right now driving?
I was so excited and I had a great drive, listening to good music, and it was a beautiful day for driving.
Put your hand on the
Right
wheel.
after I crossed the border from New Jersey into Pennsylvania, I stopped at one of the first rest stops to get gas and snacks for the last part of my...
Bro, she said... and the car is still moving. What the heck?
drive.
Dude.
I've tried to figure out which rest stop this was, and I can't ID it, but it was a gas station with a large mini-mart. Opposite of the gas station was the on-ramp back to I-78 West, and parallel to the on-ramp was a dirt road, which comes into play later. I was heading into the store when a man in his late 30s or early 40s...
Anybody that walk with a limp like that, beware. Beware. You see a YN walking with a limp like that, they got to switch on them. You see you see a dude... You see a dude that looks like he belongs in Imagine Dragons walking with a limp like that. Y'all meth. Gotta watch out. he don't even know why he there, to be quite honest. And then second off, does anybody know what Imagine Dragons look like? Because I swear, if like a group of five random dudes just walked up to me and said they were Imagine Dragons, I'm gonna have to believe them. I'm gonna have to believe him 100%. Like you can't. I can't recall a day in my life where I've ever seen one singular person on Imagine Dragons. Like if someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, we're Imagine Dragons," I'm like, "Yes, you are." You're Imagine Dragons.
40s approached me. He was a stocky guy, decently tall. I'm 5'1". He had on a plain black tee and jeans with dark brown hair and a mustache and goatee.
He's walking with a limp.
He had just come out of a black pickup truck parked a few spaces away from my car.
You don't even know what
he had a super intense gaze and immediately creeped me out. He just had a crazy energy about him. I don't really get bad vibes from people that often, but this was just strange.
He's a
he
cartel
stood too
member.
close,
Look at
with
him.
his gaze crazy and direct and focused. His word choice was strange. He immediately set off all of my alarms. He asked if I was from the area, despite my Connecticut license plate. He even asked where I was headed and if I knew of anything fun to do.
He's a sex trafficker. You can see it in the stance, the way his face shaped, that goatee. Any person whose eyebrow color don't match the color of their hair, psychopath.
Because he had plans later and time to kill beforehand.
100%.
He invited me to go play mini golf or watch a movie with him. I truthfully didn't answer any of his questions, and I declined his invitation to hang out with him. And I told him that I didn't know the area that well, and I walked away towards the store.
You are in your late 30s talking about some mini golf to someone who's dang near a teenager, bro. Go start a family. Like, stop. Like, go, dude. Go do something. Go start a family. Go work. Like, you supposed to be at work right now, dog.
I was blown away that he asked me to go somewhere with him. It was so random and uncomfortable.
Insane.
As I was walking away, he actually screamed out, "You're gorgeous."
Leprechaun face.
And the volume and tone made my hair stand on end. It was super aggressive and inappropriate, and he even startled a family that was walking out of the store. It was that loud.
Jesus.
He came into the store shortly after, and he was just staring at me, so I went to use the bathroom, and I stayed in there for at least 10 minutes, texting my friend about this creep. When I came out, he wasn't in the store anymore, thankfully, so I took my time buying drinks and snacks.
Big old apple juice.
Sour Bright crawlers and trail mix being my obligatory road trip food, and I went out to gas up my car. I was relieved his car was gone, and I started thinking about the rest of my drive and getting excited to see my friend.
She was on the beer aisle talking about she about to go drive again.
When I pull up to the road to get back on the highway, though, I hear someone persistently honking his horn. And I see this creep show on the dirt road parallel to the on-ramp in his truck honking and shouting and waving at me to drive over to him. He was directly facing the gas station and had been waiting for me to pull up. I immediately freaked out and jumped on the on-ramp back to I-78.
Insane.
He pulled onto the highway after me, and I called my friend extremely scared. I drove so fast and probably dangerously, and looking back, I am lucky that I didn't get into an accident, but I just didn't know what to do. He didn't follow me for that long, and I think after a few exits he finally pulled off. My friend and I had a backup plan that if I saw his car again, she would direct me to a police station the next town over from her house, instead of me going directly there and leading some freak to us.
Smart girl.
I didn't see the car again and went to my friend's, but the last hours of my drive I was extremely tense and anxious. I remember checking my mirrors often for this black pickup truck. It all ended well. I got to my friend's house safely and we had a nice weekend.
The dog's out.
The encounter was definitely creepy, but over the years I didn't put much thought into it. A few years ago though, in 2014, I was talking with another friend who is big into serial killers, and I mentioned my encounter jokingly, suggesting that this was a serial killer I had met, and told her my experience. She was fascinated and she wanted to Google active serial killers in Pennsylvania area at the time. The first hit was for Adam Leroy Lane, and he looked almost exactly like the man I met back in 2006. It could have been my mind filling in the blanks, but the basic characteristics, 40s, tall but stocky, brown hair with mustache and goatee, and the time and area all match. In my memory, he was a little bit slimmer than the pictures, and it was 2006, not 2007, when he was actually convicted of murdering women. Still, it's an odd coincidence, and it's one I've never forgotten.
I recently remembered this. It's one of those memories that isn't extremely terrifying enough to remember, but it's eerie enough to stay in your mind for a good while. I'd say I was about 13 years old when this happened. At the time, I lived in a small town, and this girl a few years younger than me had gone missing. The situation was really distressing. They discovered her lifeless body, and it seemed she had undergone torture prior to her passing. It was a huge deal, and obviously, it made parents paranoid about who they let be around their children. So, back to my experience. My mom took me to a Burger King close to our apartment. We would go there on the days when she was too exhausted from work and lacked the energy to cook. On this particular day, she went to place the order while I settled into a booth, idly toying with the paper from my straw. And that's when a man entered and approached me. It was as if when he entered the establishment, his eyes were scanning around until they fixed on me, and then he made his way over to where I was seated. I can't say for certain, but I don't believe he was homeless. Perhaps he was? He had this odd smell to him, and his clothes were ripped and dirty. He kept his hands buried in his jeans pocket and kept moving.
Bro, look at him. Dude smells like piss air. Look at the rips. You do fight a bear? And your hair. You got a shag mullet or something. Dude over here smiling at a 12-year-old. What a freak, dude. And your eyes, bro. He's
moving them around and swaying back and forth while standing and looking down at me with that unsettling smile he kept smiling. He started talking to me, and I remember that he had that kind of voice that makes you feel gross. He just kept staring at me, and while staring, he randomly started talking about the girl who went missing and was later found dead. It wasn't like a casual topic to talk about, especially with a 13-year-old girl. This started to creep me out even more. And on top of that, there was a certain gleam in his eyes that suggested he found the whole thing exciting, both the event itself and discussing it with a young girl. He went into detail about how he had heard that the circumstances surrounding the girl's situation were related to matters of sexual nature. Now, when you're very young and a strange and unsettling man who appears to not have showered in probably weeks is discussing sexual topics with you, and he's using such intense language and emphasis with his words, it's just really unnerving. The entire situation is messed up. I felt uneasy as this guy was standing extremely close to me, practically blocking my side of the booth. It was as if he was aware that unless he stood almost pressed against my side, I would promptly get up and abandon this so-called charming conversation. Luckily, before he could talk more about sex or ask if I've done it before, which is where he was going, my mom saw him. She came over and asked him loudly what he wanted and why he was talking to me. He looked surprised, stepped back really quickly, and left. Some workers rushed out after him to check who he was and what he looked like because they didn't know whether to call the cops or just make sure he never came again.
Dude, that's crazy.
I was really shaken up, and my mom was freaked out too. She said she was gonna buy me mace and stuff to stay safe after that. After that happened, I was always worried I'd run into him again. Small town life, you know?
No!
A few times I thought I saw him riding a bike when I'd be in the car with my mom. Another time, I think I saw him in a store, but I was young and scared, so I'm not too sure if it was really
weird
him.
Dudes that smell like piss air. Dude, insane. dude, that was cool. Oh my gosh, I love these stories, dude. I remember for a while I was like stuck watching these, like I couldn't stop. And dude, I had to show what's out there, dude. These stories are so I think it's the voice. Like the stories itself are like creepy, and who knows, it might be true stories actually like submitted by people, but like the soothingness of like some of the voices, I'm just like, like this is entertaining. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a weirdo, but who cares? It shows me what not to do, what to do and what not to do. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the Spooktober videos. If you do, please make sure to like and subscribe. I really enjoy doing this more often. It's great to be back doing content and whatnot. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. That's most likely next week. But we got some more Fears to Fathom to play, and we potentially might play Outlast by the end of the month. So again, guys, make sure to stay tuned. Like, hit that bell notification, whatever you need to do to like make sure that you're keeping up on the videos coming out. Please go ahead and do it. But anyways, guys, thank you again for watching. See you in the next video.